And good evening, everyone. Welcome back to another live reality games podcast. We are here covering Survivor CNU episode 8. This trip has been amazing so far, and super excited to get in with our next guest coming up, the eliminated player. So make sure you're tuned into that. But of course, you are all tuning in to, of course, Trevor. Trevor is back again. Trevor, how are you doing?
I'm doing great, Dustyn. Glad the three of us are here once again, and it's been a long time coming with this guest. So definitely watch the episode before you watch this because it was a nail biter of an episode.
Absolutely, and the person that we're actually really here to see, besides the eliminated player, and besides me, and besides Trevor, like we all don't matter, but the one person that does is Destiny. Destiny, welcome back.
Hi everyone! I am so excited to talk to our guest. I think everybody knew I was waiting for this guest since episode 1. I'm so excited. I also am so excited to talk about this episode. When I tell you that I went in our chat and I was typing in all caps in frustration and anger, they can attest to it. They saw me. They're like, it's okay. It's okay. I am so ready to talk about this episode. I'm so ready to talk about Survivor CNU. Again, if you have not been watching, it is not too late. Start the show. Get in there. Get caught up with us. There's a few more episodes left. Let's do it. Talk to us.
Absolutely. And we have a super busy week here at Live Reality Games. We are on field right now over in Macomb, Illinois, covering Survival Challenge. Kirk is over there with Sam doing live video podcasting. I think they just went live too for a new challenge. So make sure you watch this and then afterwards be like, hey, I wonder what this thing is. We also have a bunch of deep dives with the contestants of Real Foot this season. And then a few other ones. We have a special intro tomorrow as well for Ascendance Live. But without further ado, full spoiler alert here. We have the eliminated player, Lily, here joining us.
Boo.
Boo.
Yay!
But at the same time,
How are you?
I'm happy to be here. I feel like it's exciting to talk about. I don't think I've gotten the chance to do a brief on everything. So it's been like, I'm about to go into my junior year. So about 2 years ago that this happened. And I think since we've had a pandemic and we've had, other crazy events, and it's just kind of like I did this thing back in freshman year, and watching other people play it, like seeing what they had to say, not to my face, and like that the people I thought were totally by my side were like, she might be a threat. And I'm like,
so what is one thing that you've heard so far that you were like, what the heck? You're just blindsided hearing it now. My biggest what the heck, and this was something I yelled all the way. My mom was upstairs and she came down like, is everything okay? Was Shaggy. Because Shaggy, as you've seen up to this point, my ride or die, we bonded instantly over, we're both theater majors. And so we became close because of that. But I also think we're very similar people in how we kind of care about other people, and we wear our hearts on our sleeves. And I think we do it differently, and that shows because I'm here and he stayed in the game. And I think it was definitely from this point, I'm glad I made it to the jury because it was awesome from this point on to kind of root for him. But I think it was definitely like, for all of the ride or die up until then, to the fact that there was a point he was uncertain, it was a little bit like, okay, well, I know I'm a threat, and like, I think it was a little bit of I'm glad I didn't know that at the time. Watching the episodes back, are you still rooting for him? I've had that where I thought somebody I was rooting for, and then I watched back, I was like, what the heck, you idiot? Why was I rooting for them? Yeah. Are you still rooting for Shaggy?
Oh, yeah, obviously. I think they, up until now, have played a smart game, and it's been interesting hearing them describe that their approach is, they're very, I think, to the extent we're very similar, I think we think a lot of the same things, but they're better at keeping it to themselves. And ultimately, that's why this happened. And I think a lot of it, for me, it's this idea of I felt so comfortable within my group that it just, all this hiding, I didn't feel the need for it, because at the same time, it's like with the moves that we made, it's kind of like the cat's out of the bag, you know. I get how going into the merge with the four of us having worked together, we tried to make it work, and for one episode we made it past that first merge thing, so it was kind of, it seemed like we were going to survive it, but I think ultimately it comes to that, the test of the swing votes, Henry in the middle, and we said it in so many ways. I was just watching the numbers and you're like, okay, well, we have this pair, this 4. And in a way I was like, okay, so that should be good for us because we have 4. Everybody else has like these 2s. And I was like, numbers, yeah. Except Henry was the one number we needed. And I said it. I wish I kind of made a drinking game for myself. Every time I said, Henry, I don't know. But then I was like, it's going to be fine. It's just like, oh. But I don't think I had another choice. So at the end of the day, what happened. And I think that if I could do anything different, maybe it would have been reeling it in a little. But at the end of the day, I think I played honest to me, and seeing myself towards the end, I was tired. And I'm full honesty, like new environment in general, just adjusting to college. I had so much fun throwing myself right into this chaos. But at the end of the day, like I went through so much in high school of just like real life Survivor, of people just being mean and saying things behind your back. And are you in the group? Are you not? Like I lived real life Survivor, and it was like Mean Girls. And so I was kind of, in a way, I was like, why did I sign myself up for this?
Why did you though? Just out of curiosity, what got you sparked into signing up for this crazy club on campus?
I love the show and I love watching. I hadn't heard about the college Survivor. Like I think I was at the activity fair, and amongst the many things I put my name down, I was like, ooh, Survivor. And then he said, go check out like the Maryland season. And I was like, okay. And then I was like, whoa, this is crazy. And I was like, this could be fun. Like it was all very, it'll be like, why not? It'll be a great way to get to know people. It was truly, I think, just kind of that first, you just want to be a part of something. And I thought it was fun and exciting and new. And I'm still, to this day, I stand by, I'm so glad I did it. But I think having reached the point I reached, it was just the right time for me to leave, because I mean, not to spoil anything, but there was a point later on, it was late at night, and I was walking back to my campus after I'd been eliminated. And I was like, I'm pretty sure that somebody, like they're somewhere around campus, they're doing a challenge late at night. And I'm like, but guess what? I get to go to bed.
Yeah.
Like, I think it was my time.
That's almost the best feeling, is knowing it might not have been on your terms, but when you get to a point where you're saying it, you were tired. It's no longer to the point where you have a love for the game. It's just stress. It's almost time for you to go anyways and just be like, listen, and you aren't out of the game. You are still, in fact, very much alive and part of the game, just in a different form now of being on the jury. And so I think it's almost better to go out that way, because then you don't have any regrets in what you did. You put it in all 100% until the point where you're like, I'm done. I'm not doing this anymore. And you didn't quit. You were fighting till the very walking it up into that tribal council. You were still fighting. And I think that shows too. And I think that tells a lot about you as a person and as a player, and just overall, I think you should hold your head up. And it seems like you are, of what you did. Just to recap, up to this episode, up until this point, the tribe has just merged. They went into a merge. Nick ends up being our first member of the jury. This game is so ruthless. They voted him when he couldn't even come to tribal council. They had no regrets about it, just voted him out. Yep. There's 9 players left in the game. And then we have our Red Scare Alliance and this Pinky Pack Alliance with Miss Queen Lily over here. And then we have Henry, the weasel in the middle, trying to figure out which way to go. No, he's definitely not weaselly. He's just a politician. And you guys can go back to episode 1 when Destiny was like, do not keep him. He's a politician. But no, nobody listens to the recap, lady.
A year and a half after the fact.
Hindsight is 2020.
Yeah. If only they could hear you. If they could hear you, then
I needed you.
You don't know. Sorry about that, guys. I like when I'm right. I'm like, put a little check mark next to my name. I called that one. Henry right now up to this point has Lily says it best. Played the game of wolf. I'm not until he does. And so we're seeing it right now here on which way Henry's gonna go. And that brings us really into this episode, and you have to kind of figure out, and it's been building, and what has been building since really, I don't know, episode 4, is this battle between these two amazingly powerful women who just will not work or talk to each other, of Hannah and Lily. Did y'all ever talk? Did y'all ever have a conversation? Ever?
So, I think, I mean, later, like if it were to ever, anytime I think it crossed either of our minds, it was just the idea that, because I think Shaggy, towards the end of this episode, said, in the preview, I think, they said, what if I worked with somebody that nobody would suspect? And I was like, good thinking. And I think about, of course, I thought about it, but ultimately the element of surprise and, it just, the trust was not there. And I think that really comes from the gears that work in her mind. And that I say to it that when I had said that I wasn't sure if I should hug her, because that was truly, I think that was the point where my drive just started to plummet, because that was an emotional tribal council. And when it got to the point where I wasn't sure if I should hug somebody that was clearly in distress because of the game, like that weighed on me, not to make it about me because it was very stressful for her, but I was just so, worried for my own, I still had no clue what was going on. Like, you saw the fallout of that. We were like, did she lie to him? Did she know all along, or did they agree on this? And ultimately, I think it was important and worth noting the emotion that did come from her, because now that I'm watching the events that led up to it, I can see that this wasn't just a, flip, I'm out, turning on you. And that they had that talk leading up to it of, he said, if you put my name down, I wouldn't hate you for it. So I think it softens the blow. And she even said, they're going to think I'm ruthless. And that is the unfortunate, call it, not to make this a big societal commentary, but that is kind of when women make moves like that. It's kind of, I think we were two sides of the same coin, where I just kept on trying to, where my philosophy was pinky packed, we stick together, solidarity. I think the downfall of that was that I didn't do enough socializing with other people. And that by looking inward and focusing on my group, I think that gave the opportunity for others to, I wasn't really paying attention to what people saw on the outside, which was a big, threatening, solid group of 4. But sure, at the end of the day, that's my road to take. And
so for those who are just kind of tuning in here, Lily, right before she came on here, her and I had a conversation, because last week I had mentioned the hugging stage, where I believe, and I've said it from the beginning, Lily, you're a strong badass. Whether you want to say that you are internally or you believe it, that's for you. For me as an outsider, who I also think I'm a pretty strong woman, I see you as a strong woman. And we've heard you say, well, I'm not going to do what anyone tells me to do. I'm going to do what I want to do. So you did make a comment, and for the viewers, she made a comment that said, I want to go hug her, but I don't want to seem fake, and I don't know what to do. And so I had asked her what was going on. So that's what Lily is describing here, is kind of what her thought process was with her and Hannah, and they just never got onto a page where they could build trust. And I think a lot of times, as you're pointing out, society says strong women are scary. We're going to change it. I don't care what I have to do. If I have to scream on every rooftop until somebody is like, no, they're not.
Well, I just change it. The way she treated Gabe, and again, I totally respect that game move, seeing as that was like, given she was very good at laying out the options she had. And the fact that she managed to escape that with an idol still in hand, which, by the way, I heard myself say many times later, like, she can't have the idol. She would.
Right.
So that was smart. And very impressive. But if that was also the point where any idea of us working together was out the door, because if I saw what she did to Gabe, who's been her number this whole time, there was no way that she would I just knew her priorities were with herself, and that's fine, but I wouldn't want to be in Gabe's position.
Do you view her game differently now that you've seen her thought process, now that you've seen what Hannah was actually doing? Was your game perception and what Hannah was really doing, are they aligned? Do you have the same viewpoints, or has it changed?
I am happy that I have more information, because I think in some ways, not that she wasn't human before, but it humanizes her in the why she did things, and hearing her thought process helps me reevaluate what it looked like at the time. And I think at the time, from my perspective and what I saw and not knowing the thought process, yes, like I said, that just made it non-negotiable, like wild card scary. Poor Shaggy. I feel like Shaggy has nightmares about her. Like he's just always like, please get her out, please, she's behind me. Like, and then I was the one that was like, next week, and little did I know. But it was just kind of, I think, the fact that the relationship didn't blow up as crazy as I thought it would. Like,
no, that was dumb. I don't know why that hasn't happened. Why or anyone is letting a real life couple stay.
Yeah, but I thought that too.
Oh God, I want to separate, you know how we all have our confessions. I want commentary, the voiceover of Trevor just reacting. Because he's sitting across from us in most of these confessionals. And I just imagine him being like, you dumb. You know, like, why? But like the restraint, honestly, of words.
I always try to have a blank face so no one can read it. Every season, start of every season, everyone always, I'm gonna read your face. You'll ask about the idol, and I'll know it's based on your face. I'm like, I'm not gonna give it to you, especially when you're doing questionable things like leaving a dating couple in the game through the final 9. I'm not gonna give you any facial reactions.
I don't understand this at all. Like, they're not even talking about it anymore.
Nope.
People are like, they're just coupled. And Colin Ray actually makes a comment at this point that the Pinky Pack still kind of trusts him. How the F are y'all still trusting him when his girlfriend is public enemy number 1 for y'all?
I don't know if I mean, apparently I didn't say it profusely enough in my confessionals for it to, I think, because maybe, I mean, not to say I didn't say or feel a certain way, but I guess it was kind of Colin Ray always, yes, it was problematic. Problematic to say the least, that they had lied for as long as they did, and that this connection, like, they've been dating since high school. This wasn't even just they met over the summer wedding. Like, this was commitment. And we also didn't know. That was another interesting to watch back and hear how they reasoned it, and how they said, okay, if I get the idol, I earned it. You know, they set boundaries. And again, of course, we didn't know that at the time. But it was, I think I respect that. But from, again, in that moment before I knew any of this, yes, hindsight's 20/20. I should have known, like it was bad and it was crazy. But I think Shaggy did, again, probably more calmly than should have been the apropos reaction of like, so I guess we can't trust Colin Ray anymore because he kind of has that thing with my worst nightmare enemy. Like, it was kind of so, okay, we registered that, I don't know why, because I think there was a soundbite that I made a quote that I, watching back, was questioning, like, wait a second, because I said, oh, well, yeah, Colin didn't vote my way, but Henry's the real surprise. And I was like, wait, back to Colin, like, why would he? Oh, God. So I think I'm going to blame it on the exhaustion.
I remember when Colin was watching and editing it, he was saying how Hannah and Colin did a good job of explaining to the entire cast of like, yes, they're my significant other, but I'm my own person, and I'm happy to vote them out. And I think they did a decent enough job convincing everyone that, like, even Henry was like, you know what, I was mad at first, but then I kind of just understood. I think it was more of understanding than fearing, and I think that was the bad move.
I am prepared for them to vote each other out. So if I don't get that, because we got to hear it very early, if I don't get that this season, I am rioting. I'm going to come out to the CNU campus. I'm going to start throwing pickets. I'm going to be like a one-man picketer over here, being like, make it happen. Vote him out. And that's what my whole platform's going to be, because this is just bull crap. I'm ready for it.
I do feel like besides all these mistakes too, though, Lily, you were super impressive to watch, like this entire thing. We have a viewer comment coming in from John here. It says, "Great game, Lily."
I played a Survivor mini with him, and
he's from season 1.
Oh, there we go. A little alumni coming back here. Welcome, John. But Lily, especially from the start, like maybe this led up to more exhaustion at the end that you were kind of mentioning about before, but you really stepped into this game and you started playing, you started making alliances right off the bat. And just the passion that you brought to the game, like you weren't just gonna sit back and like just let this game go by. You really like took this to heart and really tried your best. So I really appreciate that as a viewer. So thank you.
Appreciate it.
Coming in with another, let's talk about this episode here and the Pinky Pact. And we start this episode off with what is something I've never actually seen before. And let me tell you, I have seen a lot. I've lived a lot of life. I have never in my entire years of life seen someone come into their alliance, pull out a trinket, and go, "Hello, friends. This is our team idol. I can't play it this round because we don't know who they're voting." Yes, you do. Like, you're not stupid. Yes, you do know who they're voting. The same people or person they've been writing down every week for like 9 rounds now. But okay, pretend you don't. "We can't play it this round, but it's our team idol. And with this, we can stick together."
It's for the team.
It's for the team. And really, Colin Bunn needs to change his major. I don't the bitch please, I'm a theater major. That's his quote. He takes it from Lily and he sells this idol like it is his job.
Lily, I don't know how you can trust this guy. Just as a side thing, like Colin Bunn is the most extra player I've ever seen in CBS Survivor, CNU Survivor, anything.
I kind of, again, just had to, I made the Pinky Pact, so I just have to tolerate it. And again, I had this thing, Shaggy was my rock and my core, and these were kind of, I hate to, like, of course, I want to totally, like, compliment Leah and Colin as their own players, but I think it's not that hard to see that Shaggy and I were the closest, and even from an outside perspective. So I think I don't want to diminish them and all of that we did together to just numbers. And I think that was a huge part of, maybe it's just something I told myself, but I said that I was getting the vibes from Leah very early on that she felt like she was going to be cast as the float or swing vote, like, and it happened in so many moments where there's so many moments I could say, like, okay, right here, like, game-changing moment when she had the whole watermelon alliance thing. Like, she played that so smoothly that even when I was watching it, I was like, wait, she flipped on me? And I'm like, no, that was all things that she was, because then it goes right to the next scene of us laughing about the watermelon pack, like, girl, you know. So
she did make her choice. And even from that point, you could tell you and Shaggy were, I mean, like episode 2, it was you and Shaggy, and then everyone else kind of needed to kind of get in line. Nick was making some shot calls there, and it was just sort of a thing. But I think everyone could see if they weren't seeing it. And, you know, Leah mentions it. Shaggy and Lily are together here. She makes her choice to stay with you guys. So she doesn't get to be upset about being like, why am I third? That was her decision. She had the choice to go work with other individuals, and she chose to play it in a way. And really, it's against Hannah in that aspect. And it doesn't end up working in her favor. And so she makes her choices and she sticks with it.
And I think, Colin, I think that is another reason that I stand by the language and sentiments that went towards the Pinky Pact. However naive it was, we really just, I think Shaggy and I connected, yes, on a personal level, which made us tight just as friends. But when it came to business and friendship, like, I saw the Pinky Pact as a group of equals. And I thought that and that really, like, respecting them as players, it started with Colin Bunn. Like, Colin Bunn, how he ended up with, you know, in our group, like, yeah, from episode 1, he was Blue Crew. And yeah, he excluded himself from Blue Crew, and we're like, all right, we'll take you, because I totally don't want to say like I feed on the outcast approach, but I was like, if I want you to feel like somebody's happy to have you, and I recognize your intellect, and you know, I wanted, if you wanted to work with me, then great. Like, I'm happy to have somebody on the other team, and it worked for as long as it did. Like, it was an early number, and I'm glad we brought him in, but and that became the downfall of that Maggie, or you know, I think that was was it Maggie?
It was Maggie.
Yeah, they were like, what happened to Blue Crew? And it's like, bitch, you lost that early on. And whether it's Colin that excluded himself first, either way, whether he made himself an outcast or they outcasted him, he just felt ostracized, and it furthered that line of thinking. And so it was kind of, again, our gain. And I truly wanted it to be recognizing how they made him feel, knowing the feeling very well, that I wanted him to feel like he wasn't a number, and that he had a seat at the table, and that we would make decisions together. And call it optimistic, but that's just the game I wanted to play, whether it was, you know, the flaws along the way. A lot of it is luck. A lot of it was personal mistakes. But it just kind of...
The Pinky Pact didn't make a lot of mistakes. You guys did stick together. There's not, since that group has come together, there's not been a single vote that didn't go your way. Really, your only blunder in here is sticking with it when you could have maybe jumped ship, in theory, to try to get a vote on Henry. It doesn't sound like that would really have happened. Just kind of in the behind the scenes conversation with Trevor. You know, we can all speculate a lot of different things because we're not there. We don't know the environment. We get to see what's happening kind of behind, 55 minutes of voice clips over a 39-day period. So what we get to see is very different. We get everyone's inner monologue where you just get to see these reactions. A prime example is I really thought Shaggy and Sophie's conversation was genuine. I thought that was real. They were telling each other who their number ones were. They were coming up with a plan. And
that would have been so freaking delightful. Like, honestly, we would have been a power duo couple. Like,
I was
down for it.
Do it. Bring in the Kristen. Vote out Henry. Everyone's saying that you need 5 to keep the votes. You don't. You just need more than the other side. And so if Henry, which you don't know what he's doing, you're hoping on it, Colin throws his vote off, Henry votes with the other 3, it doesn't matter because he got a 4-3-1. Or whatever it ends up being, 4-3-2, right. Whatever the vote ends up being. Yay, you. But it's not what ends up happening. It actually, Lily kind of stabs it right in the soul when Shaggy's being like, hey, Henry's kind of calling the shots over here. And you're like, no, he's not. We're calling the shots, big guy.
Professional being like, wait, are we?
and then Liz is like, I am calling the shots, right? Like, I'm not listening to Henry, am I? No, that can't be Henry. It's me, right? Oh, shoot. Maybe.
Yeah, I want Kristen out.
Yeah, and I
and then I was like, wait, where the heck did, I don't know. I was like, where did that come from? When I started hearing myself say Kristen, I was like, what?
So my favorite part is everyone going, Kristen's a comp beast. She won one, and it was about shapes. It wasn't, did y'all see her fall on her face? That's the first clip. That's the first clip, is her falling on her face. So I kind of opened a segue here. We'll talk about the episode for a second. So the tribes have merged. They're having their second individual immunity challenge, and this competition is called Dizzy Bat Relay or something along the line.
I still have nightmares.
And it is a cracked out competition where you spin around a bat, run around some cones, bounce a ping pong ball, and then like beer pong toss it into a bucket. And if you win your heat, you go on to the final heat. It's 3 against 3 people. So I think it's Henry wins the first heat of some sort, and then Shaggy wins the second, and then Bun wins the other. And you're like, oh God, okay, the men win. What a shocking revelation. But also in this is this weird twist that there's an idol clue around the corner. And like, if you spin in the bat, you don't actually have to run. You can just go look at the idol clue. And the only person who does it is Colin Ray. Which remember it. And Trevor like dimes him out. Trevor, he probably could have got away with nobody even knowing he was doing it. But Trevor's like, I don't know where Colin Ray went, like 9 times. I'm sure he is like, shut up, dude. Like, you're not supposed to point it out. Let these people figure it out. So then they go to the final comp thing here, and it's Henry, Shaggy, and Colin Bunn. And they have to do this same thing again. And then after they do that weird relay, they spin on the bat again, walk a balance beam that looks like a yardstick, stack up a bunch of dominoes, and then push him down. And Henry's got like a 9-year lead.
Yeah.
There's no logical reason why Henry doesn't win this competition until he knocks over his dominoes 412 times. And then Shaggy knocks over his dominoes. And our genius of Colin Bunn doesn't understand the competition, has to reset all of his dominoes, and somehow pulls out a win, which is like, he was so far behind. In reality,
with dominoes, I don't care whatever else is in the competition's the dominoes. Like, no matter, and it was the same story with the first challenge. And in fact, because that was yet another multi-stage. It required a physical thing. It required the
accuracy. Yep.
And but that one was you pick and choose. So it had different things to it, but at the end of the day, it really did. No matter like the 8-second lead that you get, it ultimately comes crashing down the second your tower comes crashing down, because then you're on an even playing field. So it's not really that much of a head start. But also with the ping pong ball thing, I lucked out that Sam happened to do worse than me, because I was on the ping pong thing, and it actually did take me a while to do it, but maybe because we were the furthest away, and that like I didn't suck enough, but I definitely think it would have been like, it's flying under the radar. But now it came back to the ping pong balls, and I was like, how am I better at a red solo cup than a giant? Like, I was just like, yeah.
I just don't. I'm actually to the point, I even wrote when I was watching the episode, why isn't Colin Bunn looking at the idol clue? Like, you're so far behind, just go look at the idol clue. Well, he made the right decision, because he ends up pulling out individual immunity, and he takes off, in my opinion, what the easy vote is for the group. I think that if he doesn't have immunity here, Colin Bunn gets voted out this round. I think that vote gets flipped. And they're tired of kind of going for you. You're skating by. You're getting away with it. They can't do it. And I don't see a point where, well, maybe Henry doesn't. Maybe Henry's still, I don't know. I just don't see where.
I think it truly, and Trevor has probably a better perspective on this, but from what it sounded like it is such a rare opportunity when, especially in the merge, where you have so many fractured places, where we can all agree on one person. Like, it's kind of scary and you don't want to trust it, but at the end of the day, like, if it works, oh my God, what a relief. And I think it came down to Nick really as a matter of him, it was payback for Henry led the charge, and Sophie and Kristen, they were scorned, and they felt like,
yeah. I just think that with Colin Bunn pulling off, because he pulls off the fake idol thing before he knows he has immunity. Mm-hmm. So I think that if he's not safe, Shaggy's wheels are turning. He's a lot smarter. I don't actually have him in my pocket like I think I do. Yeah. That starts being talked about. It starts getting played out. And he's no longer off the table because he's immune. Suddenly it's talked about. Yeah. Hannah has no reason to not vote out Colin Bunn. In fact, that's where they've been wanting to vote. So it's almost a way for you guys to bridge a gap where he can just be voted, because forget him, Benedict Arnold, and whatever he's saying, and it's another week.
It's felt like a luxury we couldn't afford, because I died with the ship. I went down with the ship, and that truly was a matter of the pinky pack, because I will say I was upset when I heard about that thing. And that's where the title of the episode comes from, is like, bitch, I'm a theater major. And I know that you say Colin should have gotten that line, but this whole idea, yes, it include both Shaggy and I, and even Leah, and a lot of people, into making those moves always look so cool on the real show. But I think at this point, especially given that he played it too soon because he did it before we knew the outcome of the immunity challenge. And also this idea, it was so disappointing because as someone that is so optimistically, furiously into the Pinky Pact, we need to be honest with each other. We need to be on the same page. This only works if we all work together. And it did really feel, I think it's also funny the way it worked that he told Shaggy and Shaggy was like, oh, this is genius. I'm not going to tell anyone. So Lily, you got to promise me, you're not going to take it personally. And then at that point, I made a decision. I said, okay, I mean, thank you, of course, for telling me, but I don't want Leah to be the last one to find out and to feel like she's the last one to find out. So we need to find a way to bring her into this and make it seem like you made the decision to tell her and me at the same time. Because at that point, that was the boat I had. I had Pinky Pact, and I didn't spend enough time with the other tribes maybe, and I didn't, because they had painted this image of me with my Pinky Pact, I was kind of like, this is my lot, this is my crew, I got to make the best of it, and I'm to hell with everything else if I'm not loyal.
Yeah, you're gonna burn down with the ship. You're going down with the ship. I get it. I respect it. I do the same thing. Doesn't mean I'm not gonna scream about it when you're like, why? Or why doesn't Colin Bunn go, okay, well, I know they're voting Lily, so I'm going to let them know I'm playing my idol on Lily, and then just hope that they split the votes. There's so many things that you could have done with this fake idol that he already put into play here. He already did it. He didn't think it out past his nose. At least use it to your advantage.
I will say, I think at the time, I'm almost 100% certain that even, let's say, Shaggy or Henry had won the competition, I think it definitely still would have been Lily because I think there's a couple reasons. One, Colin Bunn might have been the mad scientist of the Pinky Pact, but Lily's the leader. And so you have that. Lily's the leader of the Pinky Pact.
And Hannah hates me, or at least is convinced I hate her.
Yeah, either way, the Hannah and Lily were definitely going to go for each other this vote for sure. And Shaggy and Lily being that duo is kind of like the glue of the Pinky Pact. And once that fell, the other side felt like they would have that they'd have the Pinky Pact in the palm of their hand. And then
it'll be interesting to see because at this point now I join you guys almost as a spectator because the only real kind of information I have that you don't is jury and what happened in the end. But hearing what happened day to day, I actually very purposely said hey Shaggy, when I get lunch with you, we're not going to talk about it. I want to be there for you, and I know that it was definitely took a toll from this point on. After I left, it definitely took a toll on him because we had each other in our wearing our hearts on our sleeves thing and going through the game. Once that happened, I could tell it was taking a burden on him, but I just said, for my own sanity and also kind of for yours, I think I am a jury member. I want to do this the right way. And also let's not bring this, start working on our friendship because our friendship up until then had been straight up all the show. And I said, I'm supporting you and I'll be there at jury. And it's just, so I think we separated the game from this point after I had left. But honestly, it was just I've had so much time to think about. When I came into this, I was like, Survivor. I love Survivor. I love Big Brother. But college Survivor is an entirely different game.
Oh, 100%. It is different. It's hard to play a game where you think you know the game and then you put the human aspect on it. Because like I'm saying, it's very hard for me. I mean, it's very easy for me to sit here and be like, why didn't you do X, Y, and Z? I've played live games and I've had the same. Dustyn's been like, Destiny, why didn't you do? And I'm like, shut up. I'm a nice human. That's why. Because that's mean.
After I played the Sequester mini or the Survivor mini that was like a super short condensed online version. And that was crazy. A similar outcome happened in that game. Unfortunately, I think that one, I would say, long story short, my downfall in that short pandemic game was that I was at
tribal.
Yeah, I went to tribal almost every time, so I never had that chance to talk to everybody else.
Yeah.
And then when it came time for a tribe swap, I was like, nobody had ever heard or seen from me because I never had the chance to talk to them. So that was truly kind of, it felt situational, but also this is a biased opinion to have. I would say, and I'm sure there are examples that totally go against theory, but the winners of a lot of these social games are the best at being in the middle. And no doubt that's a skill of its own, but somebody that on paper, like, I understand, it was so exciting to read the comments on the first few episodes. People like were rooting for me, but the ones that knew the game were like, on paper, she sounds like so perfect and you want her to win, but you know that's going to be the reason she doesn't. And
we did. We knew. Doesn't mean we didn't still pick you to be our winner picks, because we did. We did.
Absolutely.
We sure did. Speaking of playing the middle, Lily is bringing us right in here. The person who is talking to everybody. I think he has text messages with people's moms at this point. He's talking to everybody. Henry, his name is said, his last name is said in the episode, W. Webble or something like that. The president of CNU and currently the president of Survivor CNU, as he has an idol in his pocket. And boy, does Henry play this right. He says he's going to tell nobody. So instead, he tells everybody. I think he took out a billboard.
He tells, like, Shaggy talking to Sophie about it. It's just kind of like, I love how they had that conversation. Like, okay, Henry, you can't tell anybody. And he's like, I won't. I got this. And then it's like, Sophie says, Shaggy, he told you what now? And then Sophie goes right back to her group and says, well, you'll never guess what he's blabbering about.
Which is funny, is Sophie keeps the secret. Everyone is saying Sophie's a big mouth. She's not being honest. I haven't actually seen Sophie lie, except for telling the person she's voting she's not voting him, which is playing the game. Like, yeah, it's not necessarily honest. There's only a handful of people who will tell you to your face they're voting you out. It's a very dumb decision. Don't do it often because they'll play idols and then you'll go home. So don't do it a lot. But if you have like a moral compass, sometimes you do what you have to do. Nonetheless, what the heck? Why is he telling everybody? My favorite part of this whole entire episode is Henry is telling Sophie and Kristen and Hannah and all these people he has as idol. And they're like, don't tell anyone else because they'll automatically not vote for you. If I was Henry, I'm like, I'm starting a group chat. Y'all ain't going to vote for me because you think I have an idol? And on the flip side of it, I miss the players who are be like, then make him play it. We're all writing his name down. Whoever goes home, make him play it. Make him play it.
And if you had like, if it was, what's the thing? It's like, put me in, coach. Like if I had charged onto the scene, the younger, more like, able-minded, at that point, I was so fatigued. And it was, I'm telling you, the turning point was this whole Hannah Gabe thing. At that point, I think a part of me was the fight. I was willing, I kind of saw the pyre that they were going to burn me on because they've been setting it up for weeks, it's just kind of, and I had dodged it and that was exhilarating and exciting until it just becomes to the point where you gotta say, maybe this isn't for me. And like, I think it did, I'm not going to say on the Pondo level of like this, like I drop out traumatic. Like I went out.
Who?
Game. I don't know.
Who?
Who is this person?
Why do you keep saying redacted?
Yeah, I know.
I've never heard of that. Please, this is a family show. Watch your mouth.
Yeah. Well, that's the whole, like, I'm not even going to give it, like, other than 5 seconds of the fact that his last name was Pond, my last name was Pond, hey! And then it was like, I quit before that even happened. But we're like, yeah, we're totally related. This, like, redheaded beard, me Latina. And I was like, somewhere along the line, it happened.
I was concerned you were related, and then I met you both. I was like, oh, we're fine. We're fine.
One of them left a letter off their application. That's not sneaky.
Yeah.
Well, we get Henry, and with getting Henry, and we've talked about it a few times, Henry, the politician who claims he has nenever lied, when really all he spits out is a bunch of bullshit at this point. And the person who has been calling out on it is sitting right here with us. Lily has been the one to kind of hold him to a fire. You've said it to his face. You said, listen, you're right. You're saying you haven't lied, but you're also not really being truthful. So I get it. You're wordsmithing your stuff, but if your platform is going to be, I haven't lied, Don't say you haven't been dishonest, because there's a difference. And you make what I am going to call the most epic speech of the season. We've heard a lot of funny comments. We've heard a lot of, I don't know, people talking out their butts at this point. Not that it's not accurate and very fun to watch, but Lily, you make a speech that is not only the best thing we have heard this entire game, but I think it has the point of changing the game in a way that wasn't taking out somebody as you're walking out. Because nobody likes to see somebody's game go up on fire because of a bitter jury member. We don't want to see that. You want people to still be able to play. But you make the comments that need to be heard, a little bit of truth, and it's almost to the point where I've been kind of saying offline, you can't make people listen. You can scream it all day long. I can't make you listen. But this was your one little spot you made. They were listening. What was it in those moments? What were those words that made you go, I'm saying it. I don't care. I'm going to say my mind.
And what I love most about this is, as much as you've hyped it up to be a speech, it was truly a quip at best. But it felt like it had the power of a speech, because everybody knew what I meant. Because up until this week, working with Henry worked in their favor because they got me out. But I think they kind of realized he was like, it could have gone the other way, and that he had made some promises to me that he could have very well made to them. And I think this idea of, I watched myself and my reactions when it came down to like the 4 and the 4. But I should have had 3 votes against me or something like that if it went my way, or if Henry had voted for Kristen. So the second I heard the 4th one for me, I said, hey, Henry, you suck. And it was kind of all right, here we go. Like, I felt it. Like I said, I saw the pyre in the distance, and I knew kind of, I don't think I planned that ahead of time. I think it really did come from the heart. I knew the second I sat down, I said, it's on Henry. And watching a break from this, watching Henry just now, like being like, oh, I still don't know what I'm going to write. Like, I said, a part of me is like, okay, so it was random that you just,
no. And here's how you know it's bullshit. And he's a politician. Is 20 minutes before this, you get a DR confessional from Henry, or whatever it's called in Survivor. I'm a Big Brother person. Sorry, it's a DR to me. The person I trust the least is Kristen and Sophie. And unfortunately, they're on my side. So right then and there, he declares a side. It's not with you guys. He's not playing both. He's declared a side. But the person he trusts least are those 2 women who, in theory, lied to him when they were voting to him. I don't really count it as a lie. Like, yes, it sucks. And the reason why you didn't go home is because of Nick, who was trying to save you. But you voted him out last week. So, like, we won't even go back into that. And the person he trusts the most is Hannah. And that's truly what I think it is he trusted Hannah. And she says it in her end thing, the 22% to the 23%. I think that Henry trusts Colin Bunn, 22%, and Henry trusts Hannah, 23%. And he picks Hannah in this situation, knowing that he gets a duo out of it of Colin Ray and Hannah, who are these separate people, and they're going to pick him over each other. But that's what he's into the point of believing. And that's what ends up sending you home. Because at no point did you have Colin Ray. He was never even on the table. And so that's really just truly. And the other part of it is what's going to come out of this is Kristen got to see her name written down. You guys didn't write Hannah. You write Kristen. But the person who pushes Kristen's name out there, it's not Lily. Lily doesn't push it. It's Henry. Henry and Colin Bunn are who push Kristen's name. They're scrambling now. This Pinky Pack is scrambling. You think that information's going to stay hidden? No. The first thing they said is, well, Kristen, I didn't want to vote for you. Henry told me to. I was just trying to work with Henry. He's got an idol. He is our swing number. We just wanted to do what he did. We wanted him to feel a part of our group. He told us to vote for you.
And that's when the rats, the cockroaches, you take the rock off. And I think that's where I think Henry had this glorious episode. I was actually like happy for him for a moment. I was like, oh, he's feeling himself. Like he has ooh. And then I'm like, I can't wait for it to get pulled out from under him. And I just was unfortunately the first casualty, the sacrifice that needed to be made for his downfall. But I think, again, I went out knowing I left much of the legacy as I needed. And I went out feeling like I was a force to be reckoned with, and the fact that I made it that far, like, go me. I made some moves I'm proud of, and it took you long enough to get me out. Like, I don't know. I felt empowered, and I think knowing that I had set goals for myself in my alliance, and I think other than whatever that fake idol Colin thing, at the end of the day, I had Pinky packed, and they stuck by me to the end, and it was, a lot of minor things led up to it, but at the end of the day, Henry sided with that. Not with us, and then that's what happened. But knowing that was very likely to happen, I kind of said, in a way, I don't think I intended it to be as much of a warning to everybody as it came off of. It was personal. It was
it should have been.
I wanted that because I knew. You can never know with these politicians, but because I figured that was something he was priding himself on, a challenge, if you will, I'm playing an honest game. Like, I can do this without even having to lie. I'm like,
no,
you're corrupt. You're just as bad as the rest of them. And that's what was the real subtext of you think you're so special.
I'm almost going to say he's worse.
Yeah.
I can get past you lying. You're playing the game. I can't get past you saying, I'm not lying. I'm not lying. Trust me, trust me, trust me. I'm not lying. I've honest Abe over here. I'm the only person who's played an honest game. When I'm actually going to say I don't necessarily believe that, I actually think you were the person who's lied the least in the game. You were very upfront about what your intentions were. You kind of declared in the sand, here's my flag. This is where I stand. I'm not hiding it. Yes, it stinks. Sure, you can come work with us. Ooh, you don't want to? You can go back to where you were. Go back over there. A little over the top sometimes, maybe, but it makes it fun to watch. Like, why not when you command the room? Why not own it? I don't think there was a single I think that you get to claim that part, at least for this final 8, 9 that we're in. Up to this point, I think that you lied the least. From what we saw, and maybe you were lying to everyone behind their back, and we don't get to see it. That's possible, but
yeah, all the confessionals were just lie. No, I'm just kidding.
And that's possible. Good for you, Lily. You fooled me. But I really don't think that Henry was maybe not flat out lying, but he wasn't being honest. And there is a very distinct difference. And maybe as a politician, he doesn't see that. But the rest of the world does.
And I think another huge distinction in gameplay and how, like I said, it's in a way I'm kind of discovering this myself. Like I didn't really, this whole thing about, I'm a psych minor, so I'm just kind of thinking, well, maybe actually in the subconscious, it was a challenge for him. And it was, oh, look at me, this is an achievement that I can, oh, look at me. It was like, bragging about it, and it wasn't for the reasons that I did it. And the reasons I did it, I didn't need to flaunt that I had been honest, because my reputation preceded me. Colin didn't have to defend me, Colin Bunn, when he was talking to, I guess, Colin Ray? Was that the interaction? Or no, it was Henry, I think. Henry was like, what do you think about Lily? And it was with Colin and Leah, I believe. And again, that was a time where he did not have to stand by me. And even if he did like me, he could have lied to cover his own butt, but he said, I believe, like, she's honest, she's dependable and she's loyal. And
you're not wrong, because Colin Bunn is the shadiest mother trucker we've ever met, and if he's defending you when he wants to be shady all the time, you probably have something there. I'm going to cut you off real quick, and you segued into the person who we really need to talk about this episode. And unfortunately, while the episode was all Lily, the person who comes out of this episode is Leah. And Leah has clocked every single thing up to this point. She's clocked Henry. She might be letting him do it, but she's clocking it. She's clocking Colin Bunn and Henry being like this duo, twosome, or whatever. She's clocking where that idol is with Hannah. She might be letting Shaggy think the thing. But what really stood out to me is when when Leah walked up to Henry and Colin talking, Colin Bunn, and they're asking questions. What do you think about Hannah? What do you think about this? And Leah clocks it. Henry is not answering anything. Now, I heard it, but I get to see it in a different aspect. Her catching it in a live moment where she's seeing and she's going, no, Henry's with Hannah. And she's trying to get Shaggy just to listen to her and be like, yeah. But she's just so subtle about what she's saying. And she truly is playing that under the radar game, which Shaggy is claiming he is too, which he is not.
Because he tied himself to me, and I'm, I think that
you were his meat shield, but you're a lady. He got lucky.
Very distracting piece of meat as well.
Come up with like a boob shield or something. We're gonna have to rename it. But I think that the part of this episode that we were seeing is we've been having this battle kind of forming of Lily versus Hannah. And this is not a battle of Lily versus Hannah. In reality, it's a battle of Shaggy versus Henry.
Yeah.
It's Shaggy versus Henry, and it's whoever can get, and it's their ladies, essentially, of happening, and who's going to get picked off. Because while Hannah and Lily are likely going to get picked off, they've had their names out there, the target, it's really hard to get away from. Shaggy and Henry have not.
We're in this sense. In the chess, and the fact that if we leave, the game's not over. And not that if either of them were to get out, the game would be over, but it's just this idea of the queens can be the most powerful, but sometimes the most expendable because we draw the most attention with that.
Correct. And so I think that's where, not that I'm going to say it's a fail on Trevor's side, because it's not. The season has been fantastic, but it has not been Lily versus Hannah. They might have been the vocal queens of it all. It's really Henry versus Shaggy, and what is going to happen here, and where I think it's going to end up happening, and unfortunately it's going to be this ace of Leah is going to have the most room to move, because Shaggy doesn't have anywhere to go now that he's lost you, and Colin Bunn already found his new survivor husband.
Yeah.
What the fuck is that?
Because in the same episode he called Shaggy.
Yes.
So
what is that?
I will say the best thing that ever happened to Shaggy is me leaving, and I'm really happy about that for him, because I think at this point the heat he has been getting it's kind of was either, oh, we like get him out making her an easy target, or we get her out making him vulnerable. So it's just kind of like, yeah, they went for me, but now he went down like 12 like rungs of the ladder because he's not the two-headed snake anymore. He's just kind of down to everybody else, and he's vulnerable. And it's like, oh, we have bigger people to, and I think that in a way, it's kind of, what's the word? It's the pull, like you kind of like a sled in a way. It's like I was the toe, the pull, and then it's like release. It kind of in a way you let out the extra weight, but also I think that really gave him the right frame of mind to continue to this next part of the game. And I think that it truly is, it feels like there's pre-merge and post-merge, and they're very different games, each to their own. And I think I also laid that out in my kind of ramblings at this travel. I said, at the beginning of this game, it's about the team, and if you don't have to worry about it, then it's not good for the team. But at this point, it's an individual game, yet you can't play it individually. So there's so many refined nuances, and it's really every game is different depending on so many things. And so it's interesting to watch it all happen. And at this point, I am definitely ready to see, how I'm ready to get my popcorn and watch people start to face the consequences. Because if I had stayed, I would feel confident that I wouldn't have to stand trial or face the consequences in the sense that Henry has to. Because like you said, when I play an honest game, I don't need to tell you that. You can't tell me I led you on. You can't tell me that it was I played you. Because yes, Hannah and I never worked together, but we never tried to work together. And it was just the line in the sand, and we just played, knocked heads until it went our way one time, and then not that I ever recommend throwing a challenge, but it did get to our heads a little bit. And I would say, despite Gabe's ramblings about you should never throw a challenge, like you should always want to win. I'm like, yeah, but the merge is coming up. And
no, you should never throw a challenge. You should always want to win, because then you would have had Gabe as an option to vote the F out. All of that kind of stuff went away when... And they wouldn't have even have known that it was a thing. You could have had more of a chance to work with Hannah because you wouldn't have thrown a competition to get... I got it. My hindsight versus your reality is very, very different. I just never throw the challenge. Don't do it. Just take them out later.
And I will say a lot of that. I will fully admit to... It was excitement. It went our way. We have the numbers. Let's keep it going, in a way we're bloodthirsty. And it felt, not that I'm a vengeful person and I wasn't doing this to personally like show Hannah who's boss, but it felt good to finally be pushing and not be pushed, and to say that we outmaneuvered you. And having a player like that, like I hate to say, a lot of it comes to this idea that we were pitted against each other. But it was such a weird pitted against each other, and we never really had, it never came to like a verbal battle. It was all played behind the scenes. Like, I don't think there's an interaction with Hannah and I almost this entire season.
There isn't. That's why I don't understand this tension. There's just...
Because I think I was so on my moral high ground of I refuse to... and not in the sense that Henry says he played an honest game. It was these are my people. I protect my people, and you come after my people. No. And again, that's me, and that's how I played. And it may not have worked this time around. It may not work in most times, but it's just kind of I did it, and I think at the end of the day, I was not. There are certain times you have to ask yourself, like, how far are you willing to go? And having 100%. Seen how far Hannah went and the emotional toll it took on her, like I said, that moment was like, this game is brutal. And I lost that kind of, I think so many times after I played this game and that mini sequester, or the college survivor mini online, I just kind of got the feeling maybe my personality type is not cut out for this, because I wear my heart on my sleeve, because they tell me, ease in, don't draw too much attention to yourself. But hey, I'm a theater major. I have thoughts, and I like to get to know people, and I like being honest. And it's kind of like, I wouldn't change that. And while it makes me a great player on paper and very, like, as I said, people in the comments were like, oh, it's going to be her downfall. I'm like, you're right. But honestly, that is me. And for a while, up until like very recently, watching this season and seeing that people actually support me, I was very worried that like I'd get the comments on the first episode like, oh God, she's going to be horrible. Like, oh, she's so annoying. She talks too much. But no, I think people, and not that I'm trying to get like the validation, I think that's such a very scary thing, because when you played this, you weren't necessarily playing it already thinking of what's the public going to say. But it's interesting now to see that and kind of preparing myself. And I think there's been some proper criticisms. And when people are saying like, oh, she shouldn't have done that, I'm like, I totally agree with you. And I know in a lot of the comments, they're even saying it's not personal. Like, she's great as a person. It was this move. And I was like, I totally agree. But when it comes to like Real Survivor, for example, who knows? I think I might do better on a show like Real Survivor, where you're on an island. And that's when the personal relationships really come to play. And I think a part of me was playing this game like I was on an island, like I went through these life experiences with these people, and where you sit around the fire, you're huddled under a tent in the rain, and you talk about your life. And I think it's different. And I think that part of me was expecting I don't want to weaponize being personal with people, but I think it's the opposite. It has the power to connect people in these social games, where I choose to use it for good, to build bridges, to connect, and to make people feel good. And instead of feeling like they're always being chased off the edge of the board. So in that sense, I just think that is me as a player, and that has been my story on Survivor, and I've definitely learned a lot about myself. But I think a big part of it was saying yes, this is me, and I am proud of the game I played. And the bonus, the cherry on top, is that somebody like you guys who talk so much about this, with due criticism, believe me, like you've said a lot of things that I'm just like, you are absolutely right. I was exhausted, but it was just kind of like that was me being me. And maybe Hannah would have made a decision like that. But at the end of the day, if you told me like, if you voted for Shaggy, you wouldn't have gone home.
Oh, I get not voting out people you're working with. I don't think that you could have done anything vote-wise. You could have got the vote somewhere else, but I think that this was kind of being played out in a story. It was somebody else's narrative, and you just kind of got to be on the pages with it. Would you play again? I think that's a spoiler alert. She does play again.
No.
We just don't know when. No.
I would consider it maybe if I was asked. I don't know.
Yay! You heard it here. Not really. First, I'm making it up, but I'm gonna put it in the universe.
Coming to YouTube in 2053.
2050, I will be dead. So somebody else, my daughter, will be taking my place.
Yes.
Podcast about it.
Yeah, talking about it. Oh, go ahead.
You said you didn't have the personality or like the charisma for like a Survivor game, but I think that's the complete opposite, Lily. You're very entertaining to watch on screen. You're great to talk to. You're a great person to build relationships with. You have great strategy too behind your moves. Like you are the person for Survivor per se, or in another game of some sort of this experience. You talked about the personal connections and the experiences you do build with people. Yes, it's not like the show Survivor. You're not huddled around the campfire, but sometimes you are. There are some games out there that put you out there in the wilderness for survival. I know the college is a little bit different, but you still have different challenges with school, with family, and all that. Still life stuff to deal with.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I would very much encourage you to go out for something else if you wanted to. And I think like this community could use somebody like you to play some more.
Come to the dark side. Work with the strong women, even if they're scary. Just talk to them. Just try.
Well, yeah. I mean, well.
Oh no! Spoiler alert.
We'll talk.
I feel like that's really good too. Because usually it's like the guys, like you see like two kingpins like going against each other. And this series, we had two powerful females going against each other in the sense that Hannah and Lily were kind of
like it was truly and that's I think another gender, societal thing is the way women play against each other when they're pitted against each other versus the way men play against each other. And I think we didn't have to do a lot of that, like showing of our muscles. It was a mental, social kind of, we never needed to insult each other because I think if anything, we respected each other and we respected that we were each other's biggest threats. And at the end of the day, as much as I would have loved to make it happen, but for me, it's about the trust. And I think when that's the very dividing difference that's such a redundant word, between us is that I built my game on trust and hers was very crafty and clever and quick and non-committal. Like it's very week by week and it's clever and foxy and crafty, but I think I couldn't work with that as much as I tried.
Now, Dustyn, do you have an MVP for the week?
I do have an MVP for the week. I think it's going to surprise nobody. My MVP for this week is Leah. I think that Leah comes out of here with a point where she can move. She wasn't tied down to Lily and Shaggy anymore. They're gone. She's going to see the writing on the wall. Hopefully it tells her, hey, I don't have to stay loyal to this ship. It's sinking. She's going to have to do a little bit of work. She did lie in that Watermelon Alliance, and she kind of came over and stuck with the Pinky Pact. I think that she can do it. I think the other part of it is she is making these reads that maybe we're just not getting to see everyone else's confessionals because that is part of it. We don't see everything. but her reads at this point are so spot on. She is saying the things that as a viewer I am screaming, and I'm just going to hope. And so for that alone, with those solid reads, Leah comes out as my MVP. Henry has the ability of being the MVP, but boy, did he just light that crap on fire, which is what I said was going to happen last week. He was going to be in the spot and he was going to ruin it. And there was a way for Henry to come out unscathed, and it was to split the fucking vote. Excuse my language. Split the vote. Be like, oh, sorry, I just was throwing my vote away in case of an idol play. And then he comes out unscathed, and he didn't piss anyone off because it's like this. Everyone was in on this plan. He had the ability to do it, and he didn't do it because he's lucked into this position. This was not by a Henry design. He got here by luck.
He had the power. He needed to make the moves and get out and let the vultures fight over it. But the dust cleared, and he was right there in the middle of it.
Mm-hmm. He shouldn't have said anything. And my husband's here now. You guys can see this handsome fella back there. Hey, no. So Leah comes out as my MVP. I think that Shaggy has the most work to come and overcome from this round. He's either going to falter or succeed. And that's kind of what we see, Trevor, on this next episode. Tell us what we're going to get to see.
I think it's a good analogy of this is cutting the head off a chicken. Henry came over and cut the head off of the Pinky Pact, and it's like this phrase, chicken with the head's cut off. You don't know where it's going to run, so you don't know what's going to happen. Leah, Shaggy, and Colin Bunn, like I said, have a lot of work to do to try to get some kind of either numbers back or just try to hide behind some kind of shadow, hide behind someone, whether that be Henry or someone else. Another good episode. Unfortunately, no gem like Lily in this next episode, but still continue to watch, even though one of the theater majors is not in these episodes.
I like to imagine that I'm like the Star Wars ghost, just like tagging along.
Oh.
I do wonder who's going to narrate now, because where most of our narration for this season has come from, it's from this queen right here. That's kind of where you got to see all these kind of witty lines, what the vibe of is, because that's where you would kind of shape the vibe of what was going on in the environment, and the scene was set, and then we could hear what people's comments are. So I'm excited to see who picks up that slack. I have full hope that producer Colin, will come up with an individual to do it for us. Otherwise, he and I are going to fight off screen here because I need to know what's going on. I'm really excited for next week. Lily, I am so sorry that you were voted out. Not into a point that I didn't think you needed to be voted out, because girl, did I think you need to be voted out. You were running circles around that cast.
If anything, like I said, the fact that I made it this far, I was like, took you long enough.
It did. It really did. And you should hold your head up high about it. It was so fun to watch you on screen. I don't know how many times you commanded the room. You always kind of knew where the camera was. You had yourself set up in frame. Those angles were on you. Shaggy looking like a dog over there, just looking rough because you were the center stage.
You have to know who you surround yourself with.
Yeah. And it sounds like you and Shaggy are still friends.
Yeah, except I gotta call him up and say, "Yo, what was that about?"
What was that about? What was that about, Shaggy? Well, it was so fun to talk to you. If you ever want
to, Chris Harrison, I guess not Chris Harrison anymore, but those like the final rows. Be like, so tell me about that. And I actually, I might call up Hannah. I think we need to have.
That might not be a bad idea. I think that could be a little bridge that could. I'm gonna get you guys both on here to hash it all out, and you guys are gonna come out friends. That's my goal. That's my one. Make it happen for me, Trevor. There's my goal, is to get them both on here at the same time. Lily, it was so fun talking to you. If you ever want to come back on the show, keep watching. Come on. Come spill the tea with us. You don't have to be nice anymore. Now you can just talk shit with me.
Oh, yeah. It's really objective at this point. I had no stake in it, and I'm ready.
Oh, and then also, you mentioned that you do follow Big Brother. We do a Big Brother recap podcast too. So if you are wanting to pop in as a guest star and promote CNU a little bit for our cross audience there, that would be fantastic as well if you're interested. Just as a FYI. So
good to know.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you very much.
All right. Speaking of things coming up besides that Big Brother podcast, we are also covering a survival challenge happening right now over in Macomb, which is pretty close for somebody. If somebody wants to take a little adventure this weekend and maybe visit Mr. Kirk over there and give him a little surprise.
I'm going to text him right now and be like, hey, baby, I'll see you on Saturday.
But thanks, everyone, for joining us. It is getting a little late here, but Lily, Destiny, Trevor had a fantastic night. For the audience watching at home, too, Colin popped in, and our friend from season 1, too, John, who really liked your exit as well. So everyone, make sure you tune in for the next episode. And of course, Dustyn and I will be back next week, same time at 8 on Thursday to talk hopefully to the next eliminated player or the special guest that Trevor hooks up with us. So thanks again. And everyone have a fantastic night.
Yep. Bye everyone.